I just went to my first San Diego Pride, which was so much fun, and it had me thinking a lot about why we have pride. And it's because the opposite of pride is shame and guilt is how a lot of queer people feel. And so I sat down and typed together a list of practical steps looking back on what helped me to feel better. I grew up in Birmingham, Alabama, so there's a lot of religious influence, there's a lot of conservative influence, and it's not the best place to grow up if you're a lesbian. And now I'm at the point where I don't feel guilty and shameful. I want to just offer the hope that it gets better. So, without further ado, let's get into the tips. Number one is practice meeting your thoughts and emotions with curiosity and playfulness instead of judgment. This is a broad tip that can help with all types of emotions. Therapy hour, but when you get a gay feeling in particular, you know what I'm talking about. You get a little crush on somebody or you think that person's hot. When you're struggling with self-acceptance, you might feel the urge to distract yourself, to suppress the feeling, to be like, I should not be feeling this way about this person. Ooh, that's not appropriate. You have this knee-jerk reaction to suppress. And instead, I would just ask you to try out being like, ooh, I noticed that I just felt this way about this person. That's interesting. And leave it at that. Take note of it. The emotion comes up, you take note of it. Okay, yes. Ooh, I just learned something about myself. That's interesting. Period. We can't control what we find attractive. Allow yourself to explore your sexuality without beating yourself up. And instead of trying to divert what emotions and feelings come to you, instead of trying to spin them as either positive or negative, take note. Be curious and think of it as something you learn about yourself. As you go on, you get less of these reactions to your feelings and you can just feel your feelings firsthand without it being like, I have to do something about this or repress this. So we're starting basic level here, okay? Next one. Internally, trace down the root of where your guilt and shame may have came from and who or what taught it to you, and try to understand, how did this get passed to me and by who, and how did it get passed to them? A lot of people would probably learn guilt and shame about being queer through family. Why is that? What taught them that? Is it true? Am I actually going to burn in hell and rot forever? Or did my parents just learn that from someone else and they've never been around queer people, and since it's unfamiliar, it's rejected, and man and woman kind of makes sense? Those are two very different things. If you are a religious person, well, you know what? We should make a whole other video about religion. But I would just encourage everyone to look into their own faith. I grew up in a religious household. I grew up in the deep South, Birmingham, Alabama, so you can just imagine how that feels. But it was church every Sunday type of family. And one of the main sources of my guilt and shame was the Bible and church itself. And I just really wanted to be a good person. And I associated in my mind that gay was equivalent to sin, which was equivalent to me not being a good person, and that this was like some mandate from God and against nature. And I really had to look into, where did I get that belief from? Next thing I know, I'm in the Bible, I'm looking at the verses. You're reading them for yourselves. You're understanding, oh, this was translated from this to this to this in the social context of the time, which was this to this to this to this. Things get lost in translation, and I'll leave it at that, but I will encourage you to look into it for yourself, because knowledge is power, and people can't delude you and yank you around back and forth about what the Bible says. And if you don't know what the Bible says, you might just believe any old thing. But if you look into it for yourself, that's power. Or even if we're not talking religiously related guilt and shame, it's just socially you feel shunned or it's not that common. Look into where you got that from, and look into, well, maybe I just live in a really small town that doesn't have a lot of gay people and has a strong religious influence. Been there, put a finger down if you've been there, bop. I would say trace it to the root, learn the historical context, the religious context, the social context, who said what to who that made you think what, and get some knowledge. Don't get gaslit, don't get emotionally manipulated. Know what you're talking about. This gives you control and knowledge and power. Number 3, get a series of little wins under your belt by taking little risks and sharing more with other people. Start with something small that seems kind of scary but mostly safe, and then see how that goes. One thing I used to struggle with was PDA, like holding hands with my partner. And valid, because I was in Alabama. There was not other lesbians, so holding hands in the mall was crazy work. But I struggle with that even when I wasn't living in Alabama anymore. And so one of the little wins for me would be like, you know, holding my girlfriend's hand in public. That's something that's so simple, but I would be able to do it, see that no one was staring at me or nothing bad happened to me, and it was all okay. Or if you've never been to a gay bar before, you decide, I'm gonna try it, I'm gonna go, and you go. And it's fine. And no one stares at you weird, you have a good time, and you go home, and it all worked out, and no one died. Great, that's a little win. You talk to your sibling about the person you're dating, and confide on them. You confide in your friends more. Let people support you, and you get little wins by being more open. People think so often in black and white, in the closet, out the closet. Either I'm out and proud and loud and flamboyant, or I'm repressed and quiet and nobody knows. But in reality, there's so many in-betweens, and we don't have to be drastic, hasty, dramatic. It doesn't have to be this big, giant fireworks. No, you have little tiny wins and see how those go, and you kind of gain the confidence. With coming out in particular, like it's like a snowball. The first few major coming outs to your inner circle can be really, really hard. But as you get going, you kind of get the hang of it and it becomes less difficult. You're now coming out to people who are less important, people who don't know you that well, and it becomes a little bit easier. You just kind of get the practice. I think that being open and genuine and having that going well can do a lot to make you feel less guilty and shameful, because it's not like something you're never talking about. I had a secret girlfriend at one point. I was never talking about her to any of my friends. Like, I had no support. We had a breakup. No one knew we broke up. It was hell on earth to break up with somebody and actually no one else on earth knew about it and that you were going through anything. Completely invalidating. When it's so secretive, it gives the feeling of shamefulness, guiltiness. This is something to hide because I've been hiding it for this long. And in reality, there's a lot of little wins you can get in between now and then that would make you feel better, safer, more authentic. Gain momentum on more challenging tasks by doing little easy things, you know? Next one, recognize that no one can truly come in and tell you what is right for you and what is wrong for you. We all have different experiences, we have different beliefs, we have different upbringings, and that forms what we think of as right and wrong. And someone else's opinions can be very true for them in their little world, and they can try to tell you about what their little world is like, but truly there is a big distinction between what someone else thinks is reality and right and just versus what you think is right and just. And those two things can perfectly coexist, but you can't come and force your rules into me and my life. It's very important, I think, to develop a strong sense of self. This is gonna benefit you across all parts of your life, but specifically with feeling guilt and shame. You feel guilt when you feel like you're doing something wrong, and are you actually doing something wrong? It's love. This is not evil. This is a type of love, okay? The only reason people construe it as negative is ignorance, and I think that's really sick and evil for queer people to have to feel like they're against nature. Love is love. Love is love. I stand on that. There is a thick line between what you think is right and what I think is right. Don't let that line be crossed and blurry. Distinction between who I am, my values, my beliefs, my experience, my perspective versus other people's values, beliefs, and perspective. And to just acknowledge those are two different things. And it makes sense that other people might have come to other conclusions about the same thing. That's because we have different experiences and perspectives. So know what you believe and know that no one else can come in here and come into your mind, your brain, your soul and tell you you're wrong. Okay? Another one, don't tiptoe around the topic of being queer as if it is shameful. Like, it's not shameful. You don't have to hide details about your personal life from other people. Like if you're hanging out with a bunch of straight people and they're talking about, my boyfriend did this, boyfriend, and you can't relate because you have a girlfriend and you're gay. You don't have to just shut up and not share anything at all because you're like, oh, I'm ashamed. I don't want to bring this up. Don't bring up my thing. I don't want to talk about it. No, you can be like, oh my God, my girlfriend did this, this, and this. Join the conversation. Don't hide stuff out of this feeling of awkwardness. Even if you are low-key tweaking out, be cool, calm, and collected, and let other people know that this is not some taboo thing that I don't have to talk about because it's so shameful and I'm so guilty and I can't talk about it at all because I'm so embarrassed of myself. Nope, I'll talk about it. What y'all wanna know? I'm chill, okay? I'm not asking for your approval. I'm just telling you what happened. We're just having a conversation. What? What next? What now? And honestly, most of the time, when you don't treat it like a big deal, they don't treat it like a big deal. Don't walk around with your head down like, oh, I don't know if I can share this. Like, oh my gosh, someone might say something mean about this. You're not asking people for approval. You're just telling them. It's not something I'm gonna hide because it's not shameful. Duh. Do you hide your boyfriend? No. This brings me to my next one, which is protect yourself as if you were a little child. Let me explain. Sometimes we're so tough. We think, I can get hit on the chin and I can just take it. People make fun of me. Someone wants to treat me bad. My parents want to treat me bad. If you have any type of pushback like that, and I hope that you don't, but if you do, protect yourself like you were a little kid. You think you're really strong because you're a big, strong adult. Imagine you as a child. What would you do for that person? Imagine it was someone else as a child. Would you put up with it if they're getting kicked around at the lunch table? Imagine someone telling that child that they're gonna go to hell forever. Oh no, but I'm not letting that fly. Picture it like that, because that really is who you're protecting. Your inner child, that is you. Don't let people kick you around. This isn't coming out of a place of anger. This is coming out of a place of, I'm protecting a child. And when you do something like that, the validation, like, hey, I feel safe with myself because I don't hide, I don't take mean comments, I do have boundaries, and I can stand up for those boundaries and enforce them when I need to. That is a great way to feel confident and to feel safe in your own company, is by knowing that you will protect and take care of yourself if that's what you need to do. You deserve respect like anybody else. I don't play about that. Next one, find queer people in real life to be a part of your community, or follow people online if you don't have people in your real life or if you're closeted or something like that, but just get queer representation around you. This point alone can be the #1 way I would recommend to people that it would help them feel really normal and not shameful, especially if the queer people you're hanging out with don't feel shameful and guilty. They're open and accepting and kind. That rubs off on you and it makes you feel really good. I mean, I'm a masked lesbian. When I found other masked friends and we kind of were all wearing like men's clothes, we were like going to queer spaces, we could talk about girls together and stuff, that made me feel so normal and not like the only, because oh my God, I spent so much time feeling like the only lesbian. Like no one could relate to me and I felt like odd man out, because I was odd man out. I was dead ass the only masked lesbian in the area. Side note, gay people live in big cities. So if you want more of a queer community, move to a bigger city and you will find the gays there. I think living in a place that's really like liberal and queer accepting, even just like go in a coffee shop and I see one lesbian there, I'm like, oh my God, queen. Love seeing that shit, even if we aren't besties. I think that's important if that's something you're in the position to do now or at some point. #8, you deadass just get used to it, and so do other people. With being gay, it's something that feels very new at one point, and it does not feel new forever. When you first come out, it's like there's a challenge, there's another challenge. This is a new challenge, new. There just stops being so much new, and it just becomes, you're repeating a level that you already beat before. With coming out to people, it's like I've come out to people before. Like I know how to do this. It's not your first time doing everything. Also, other people just get used to it. Like I'll use the example of my own parents. When I first came out, it was a lot of adjustment from them. They also didn't know what they were doing. They didn't understand, they didn't know how to support. They were doing things that were hurting me from like being myself, like banning me from seeing people and stuff. Oop. But over time, and here I am years and years and years later, they've gotten used to it, and that wasn't an overnight thing. I've had several girlfriends in these 6 years, and at the beginning, they would totally ignore that this person was my girlfriend or not even know I had one. And then now it's at the point where I know I can tell them I have a girlfriend. They meet my girlfriend, they ask how she is, stuff like that. People just straight up get used to it. It's a learning process for other people too. And the last thing that will help you get over guilt and shame is just more time. Be around people who support you, who will let you be yourself. Be patient with yourself. It's not a flip the switch overnight thing. It's hard enough being queer. Don't beat yourself up for not being accepting enough right away. Things are gradual. Life is really, really long. Patience. Please, I can't like that. Talking on camera is hard. Like I get tongue-tied sometimes, but oh my gosh. Let's take a deep breath. Everything takes time. You're gonna find the love of your life. You're not a bad person. You're not guilty of anything. The fact that you're trying to work on it and learn about how you can change tells me that you're gonna be able to make this change. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope this helped you. And I've been in your shoes before and have hope, and it gets so much better. And if you like this video, please consider liking and or subscribing. I post videos every week. Sometimes they're talking videos like this, sometimes they're fun vlogs, whatever. We got a lot of positive queer representation in this little corner of the internet. So if you wanna see more, click subscribe. And if you do, I will see you next week.